Welcome to Animal Posse, the podcast dedicated to the people and rescues making a difference in the lives of animals. Thank you for coming on the show today, Karen. I am eager to learn about the unique jobs you have in the animal welfare community. It seems like you
Well,
do a
thank you.
lot. I understand your group, Slomba Shelter Solutions, it plays a unique role in the animal welfare community by helping shelters and rescues improving their operations and thus saving more lives. I can't
Mhm.
wait to hear about that specific need that your group fills. But before we start with that, can you tell us how you came to be involved in animal rescue and animal welfare?
Yeah, interestingly enough, it was 2001, which kind of dates me, but it was 2001. I was living in Buffalo, New York, and I went to a PetSmart and saw a cat that I fell in love with. And so foolishly, I called the director of the rescue and I'm like, hey, can you tell me about this cat? And she's like, sure. Do you want to adopt it? I'm like, no, I just want to know about the cat. Now that I've been in rescue forever, the kind of person I was at that moment is the kind of person that makes us all crazy. Cause like, why are you wasting my time? But it was an organization called 10 Lives Club and very small organization at the time, and I started volunteering for them. And the next thing I knew, I was running their shelter. The next thing I knew, I was their director of operations. And then I got recruited to a shelter in Florida. Now, before I go into the Florida thing, let me tell you that 10 Lives Club now, today, 25 years later, is adopting out about 3,500 cats a year, which is remarkable, especially since it's just cats. And today we brought in 50 cats from Jefferson Parish Animal Shelter. So we were really excited about that, excited to be able to help J Paws and excited to bring animals here that we knew we could get into homes. So that was fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. 50 cats.
Yeah.
Wow.
And from Jefferson Parish, especially because that's where you're calling me from is Louisiana. So it's like, how ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there I just went into animal sheltering for a lot of years. I was a directors of a place called Cat Depot and a place called Nate's Honor Animal Rescue Center. And then I was the executive director of the Animal Welfare League of Charlotte. And to be perfectly honest, from that last job, I was fired, which I'll share with everybody. It was like this happens. It's like just like in football, like coaches get fired and they land on their feet, right? Sometimes in animal welfare, especially when you're running a nonprofit, sometimes your board of directors can really make life a little hard. And so there was a lot of philosophical differences between myself and my board. And one day I walked in my office, they're like, yeah, we decided we're going in another direction. And I was blindsided and devastated. And what am I going to do? And so I started Slumber Shelter Solutions just at that time, just thinking, oh, I guess maybe I can call my friends and ask them for work. I'll do consulting. But it just morphed into this thing that is way bigger than I ever imagined. So we do a lot of consulting for organizations, especially in New York, because there is a law now that standardizes the animal care in animal shelters. So there are a lot of things that shelters in New York need to learn to be in compliance with this new law, which has been very challenging for a lot of shelters. And then, but it's good to have guidelines that everybody follows, right? And then, so we do a lot of consulting in other states and municipalities on their operations. But the main focus of my business is spay neuter. Stop me because I just keep talking and talking. Spay neuter. So our company provides supplemental spay neuter support, mostly for animal shelters, but also for some high volume spay neuter clinics across the country. So the pop-up clinics that we do at the LASPCA with SpayMart, that's just one area where we do them, but we do them really all over the country where there's just not enough spay neuter appointments for people to be able to get their animals done. And a lot of the shelters are having backlogs of spay neuter. So we just created teams to go into shelters around the country. We have about, I'd say 200, a little over 250 veterinarians that work for us right now. and probably 300-ish veterinary technicians. And we travel them around the country, and it's really been very successful.
When you do these spay neuter clinics and you staff that, how do you go about
Mhm.
recruiting the staff? And are you able to offer a lower price for shelters and rescues?
Yeah. So what we do is, for example, if I use the LASPCA, for example, we were fortunate enough, Spaymart and myself, to get a grant from PetSmart Charities that allowed us to offer really cheap, like $25 surgeries for rescues across the greater New Orleans area. It depends on what your funding sources or situations are, but our costs are relatively low because we're paying our vets and vet techs, obviously, a reasonable rate. We don't want to ask them to volunteer because that's just not sustainable. And then we pay for the consumables. We pay the LASPCA for the consumables. And then my company marks everything up just a little bit, but not enough where, surgeries, like we can easily, even without a grant, we can do spay neuter for $65 a piece, which is, in our eyes, relatively reasonable when a lot of private practices are asking for $500 for a spay neuter. So we are able to keep it a little bit more affordable.
Do you have a permanent shelter or a permanent clinic for this, or is this just all strictly like a pop up?
Yeah, it's all pop-ups. So we go into, and that's our secret sauce, is we go into clinics when they're closed. So they're not utilizing the equipment or the space. So we go in and we will perform our magic. Like on Saturdays when we do these at the Louisiana SPCA, for example, we do 100 cats and then we leave and clean up and we leave. It's like we were never there. I always say it's like serve pro, like it never even happened. But it's not in a permanent space. We've done them at JPAWS. We've done them at Terrebonne Animal Shelter. So, we can really take it any place where there is available equipment and a partner shelter that is interested in expanding their capacity.
And so if, let's say, the shelter or the rescue was short on funds for that, then would you be able to do it, like you said, for the $65?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No. So, like, when we had the grant, we did it for everyone for $25. Now that we've run out of that grant funding, we're able to do it for $65. And sometimes, like, there's a woman in St. Mary's Parish who works so hard and she pays for a lot of it out of her own pocket. There are cases where I will discount what I'm getting, what my company is making out of it, so that we can make it a little bit less expensive for the rescues who are just really struggling and who are working tirelessly. Sometimes we'll do things like that so we can make it even more affordable. Like sometimes we can make it 45. We can't really go much lower than 65 on TNR, unfortunately, because that includes vaccines. And so there's a little bit more involved in that with the rescues. They pay a little bit extra if they want vaccines, but most of the rescues do their own vaccines, so they don't really need it. They just need the surgeries.
Yeah, that would be great for some of the rural parishes that we have, because I know we have a lot of them, and
Mhm.
that's their biggest need. Like, they can't find the low cost options like we have here in Jefferson Parish, which is a much bigger parish
Mhm.
than the smaller parishes that are around here. And some of them don't even have a shelter.
Yeah.
So that would definitely be like a good thing to introduce them to. Hopefully they can hear this
Mhm.
and find out about it and contact you maybe.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. We are always interested in creating new partnerships, and especially in those areas where there's just nothing. It's really great to be able to provide services that no one can get. The challenge is in those places, is there going to be a facility that will allow us to come in? If they don't have it, like shelters are usually the no brainer because shelters are like, yes, please, spay, neuter cat or dogs. And so sometimes we'll have to partner with a clinic, and that's not quite always as easy. And then there's like Spay Nation in Lafayette who they've got a mobile clinic. And so we could talk to them about doing a mobile clinic in some parishes that are like just have nothing. Right now, we're mostly doing LASPCA and Jefferson Parish for the moment.
How many cats, let's say just in Louisiana, are you doing with
Mhm.
these pop-up clinics? Let's say in a given
So
year.
we this year we've done them once a month, and we do 100 cats each time. So I guess 1,200 cats. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Imagine how many
Yeah.
cats that would be.
I know. We're reproducing, and we've talked about maybe trying to do twice a month, but we're just not there yet. But always open to other situations. That's a funny thing. Michelle, who's the director of Jefferson Parish Animal Shelter, was here today with her 50 cats. And we were talking. I said, I really want to get in and do some more public surgeries for Jefferson Parish. Jefferson Parish is really unique because you guys have the JSPCA and you have the Fix a Feline and Fix a Canine program. So it's very easy for us to do surgeries anywhere in Jefferson Parish because the clients don't really need to find the funding because it's there through those two programs. I wish everybody had that program. It's such a great program that JSPCI runs. Kudos to them.
Yeah, it is a wonderful program, and it's a shame that there's more people that don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, and I think that it's just that people should know about it, but they don't know about it. So I wish there was a way for everybody to do a little more education on it. Now that I think about it, it might be a great idea to have some of those local rescues all be promoting JSPCA's Fix a Feline program. And in addition to their own, of course, really, the more that word gets out, the more animals will be done in Jefferson Parish. And people don't realize how lucky they are to live in Jefferson Parish if they have pets.
Yeah, it's true, and it is hard even though when you tell people about the program, sometimes it's still hard to get them on board with it too.
But tell me why you say that. It's just that they don't want to spay and neuter their pets?
I don't know. I guess that's the big mystery. I know there's situations if I'm on social media or something and I see somebody that
Mhm,
has a cat, especially if they're giving the cat away, the first thing that I'm going to ask
mhm.
is that cat spayed or neutered?
Answer.
Is that cat in an area where you have low cost spay or neuter? Because even in Orleans
Mhm.
Parish, they have programs in Orleans. Of course, we have the one in Jefferson. I don't know. Like there was one just the other day. It was a kitten. And so my first thing is, okay, can we keep this kitten? It's one kitten. Can we keep that kitten in a home? And
Yeah,
so I asked the question, hey, first, is the kitten spayed or neutered? It looks like it's 2 pounds. No telling. And of
right?
course, the answer's no. Okay,
Mhm.
why are you getting rid of the kitten? That's the second thing that I'm going to ask. Because if it's something like, I can't afford to get it spayed or neutered, or I need some food, okay, let us find a solution for you. So, this particular situation, the kitten was not spayed. It was a kitten they found that was outside, and they just couldn't have more than one, and they needed it gone ASAP.
Mm.
So, they had
Okay.
another cat already, but they weren't willing to work with a rescue to try to get it in a home. And they ended up finding a home for it, which is aggravating because now it's not.
Because the cat's still not
And in that situation too, I was even like, okay, you found it a home, have them contact me. I will give them the information. But
spayed.
is that going to happen? It's just sometimes people seem to make up excuses too. There was
Mhm,
another one. It was an adult cat, beautiful cat, and
mhm.
they had an existing cat in the home. So the female cat had 5 kittens. She found homes for
Right.
all the 5 kittens. Unfortunately, I don't know how that went with the spay and neuter. But the
Mhm.
adult cat, the mom, was not spayed. The excuse she used for that was that it was only 5 months that since she had her kittens. And yeah, of course, you could go get her spayed now. You could get her spayed a month, a week after she has the kittens.
Sure, and
You
the
know?
mantra now is fixed by 5, fix them
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
time they're 5 months.
Yeah,
Huh.
so you don't even get into that situation. But of course, she didn't do that. So I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. Why are you getting rid of this cat? Oh, it's not getting along with my male cat. Okay. I'm assuming the male was neutered or she would have had more kittens. And I was right. The male was neutered.
Mm.
So I'm like, your issue is the female is not spayed. That's your issue. If you go spay the female, chances are it will end up working out with just a little bit of
Yeah.
patience. And no, then it came, I can't keep it. Okay. Let us work with
Mhm.
you. And we even said there's a pop-up clinic coming up. We can get you into the pop-up clinic. Can you
Oh,
go?
always, yeah.
Yeah, can you get the cat to the pop-up clinic? Now it's my car's broken.
Mhm.
And so it's just like one excuse after the other. This person ended up contacting 3 different rescues, all of them offering the same help, but it's like one of these things where she wants to get rid of the cat, but then she's not willing to put up any effort at all in trying to get the cat into the appointment or even bring the cat to somebody who can go get it spayed or neutered.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I ran shelters, I used to recognize pretty regularly, like, by the time they're calling us, right, they're done. Like, people do not wanna take one extra step, and if we can figure out how to get to them before they're calling us, if we can figure out how to get the word out there and educate the community how simple it is, because usually they only call us when they're at their wit's end. So that is really frustrating. I think that maybe the answer is let us come get the cat and have it spayed and neutered. And would you be willing, maybe not, but would you be willing to try it and see if it works when she's spayed or neutered or foster her because we don't have space in the shelter until we can help you find a home? Sometimes if you meet them halfway, they'll do it. But the funny thing is with dogs, people who have dogs, especially men who have dogs, I hate to say it, but they're like, I don't want to take away his manhood. Are you serious, really? Like, I can't take that dog's testicles. I can't do it. Like, I can't. Like, it's a morally, like, disturbing thing to do. And I'm like, you don't understand. We really have to do this. So that has been a struggle for me is to have that conversation with people who just feel like it's unnatural to take that from a boy dog. Boy cats are easier because they tend to spray and their urine tends to smell really bad. So people are like, all right, I got to get the cat neutered. But male dogs are a struggle to convince some people. But you know what? We never have a shortage of people coming to us to get their animals spayed and neutered. I'm sorry you've had those struggles because it is frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating, and I think to me the most frustrating part is that when they want it to happen immediately and they're
Of
not
course.
willing to wait a little bit of time because a lot of them don't understand that these people that are in rescues, the animal shelter is a little bit different, but people that are in rescues, they work full time. So they're all
100%.
volunteers and they cannot always take an animal right away. When you say, I'm moving tomorrow, can you take this animal? You should have given us a little bit more time. Yeah, we could have helped you, but not in just a few hours because we all work.
It's sad because I think if people knew that, maybe they would do it differently, but they just don't know any better. But it puts you guys or whoever the rescue is in a horrible bind because half the time you're full. So you can't take a cat. You could take a cat a week from now or 2 weeks from now, but not today. So it's a shame that once again, people just, they're not, we are not educating them enough. And I'm not sure how to educate them more, but I sure wish we could figure it out.
Yeah, that would be the thing to figure out to definitely get it to the
Mhm.
point where when they think of getting a pet, that's what they think about. Because I know for me, that's how I've always been.
Yeah.
I've always grown up and I'm like, okay, we got a new cat. We've got to go get it spayed or neutered. And I've been like that ever since I was a
Mhm.
child. But it's getting people to think like that as well.
Well, I think that also it depends who you grow up with. I have run into young people who are like, "My cat's pregnant," and I'm like, "Oh, well, how did that happen?" I don't know. We used to growing up, we always had cats that would come home pregnant. And I'm like, okay, the disconnect was in the family where the family didn't make it a priority. So this is what these people have learned growing up. So it's like you almost can't blame anybody for not doing better because in most cases, if they knew what an impact it would have, I'd say a lot of them would probably do it or how much it impacts the health of the animal. Like a dog or a cat is much less likely to get testicular cancer if they are neutered, right? So that right there, same thing with cats, like much less likely to get mammary cancer or ovarian cancer if they're spayed. Not to mention like a pyometra, which is an infection of the uterus that happens relatively frequently to unspayed female cats, and that's fatal if it's not addressed. I think if they knew all that, maybe they'd do things differently. And I do think that people feel like their barrier is financial, even though there's a fix a feline program. They just don't know about it. Especially if you call your normal vet, you're just a private practice vet, and you're like, "Hi, how much would it cost to spay my cat?" And they're like, $600. And nobody has that kind of money. And it's funny because private practice are raising the prices on spay neuter, which is sad. Not except for Genevieve Wisdom. I'm going to give a shout out to her because she's amazing. She keeps her prices low.
Yeah, now I did run into one situation where I found a cat, very friendly little
Hmm.
cat. So I figured he belonged to somebody just because of the way he was acting. And I
Hmm.
happened to find the owner of the cat. And of course, he was not neutered. So I
Okay.
asked her, I'm like, hey, why isn't he neutered? And she said she went to go take him to the vet, and the vet wanted to charge like $400. And I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
gotcha. So she did let me get him neutered.
Well, thank God. But, and some people are, they're just like so grateful when you give them an alternative. I'm on the board of an organization in Niagara Falls, New York called Better Together Pet Resource Center. And this is a consistent thing we hear. Like people come in with pregnant cats or adult cats, male cats that are spraying and it's not that they don't want to get their animals fixed. They just can't afford it at regular prices. So we did a vaccine clinic, and at our vaccine clinic, everyone that showed up, it was like for people who didn't have the means to do it on their own. So we had this vaccine clinic, and we asked everybody, if we were able to give you an opportunity to spay and neuter your cat, would you want it? Every single person said yes, everyone. And it wasn't just cats, it was cats and dogs. So we made a deal with one of the local clinics, and we provided transportation for all these people. So all the people who were able to get to our vaccine clinic just brought their animals there. We provided transportation to the clinic because transportation's another big problem. So that worked really well. And I was really excited to learn that every single person there wanted to get it done. They just didn't think that they could because of the prices.
I've heard that from a few other people that I have interviewed that live in New Jersey and New York. Their rescues are in New Jersey and New York. And it's
Hmm.
funny because they said the same thing. They said over there, it's a financial barrier. So when they find they can get it, they get it done. And I was telling them, it's just here, it's just so weird because we have it, but we just cannot get the people on board with it.
Again, I think it's if more people understood it was there, then more people would do it. So the question is maybe collectively, like everybody in the rescue arena in the New Orleans area, you do a series of billboards. They're not expensive. There's a guy actually who owns a lot of billboards around there who is a fan of rescue and about the Fix a Feline Canine program. I bet we would see a lot more people getting involved and doing it and having it taking care of their pets. And the program's been around for a really long time. But you tell me, how is it advertised right now?
Maybe it's because 'cause I'm in rescue, but I
Mm.
see it, like, all over. There's, groups on social media that aren't just animal
Mm.
groups, and they share it everywhere, you know, and I mean, I don't know. If we could
Yeah,
figure that
and I
out, we're all set.
mm, exactly. Honestly, I mean, it would be really interesting, a fun experiment to try to get all the local rescues to, like, at the same time, do a mega promotion on the Fix a Feline program. Because, like, for instance, the Louisiana SPCA, they take Fix a Feline vouchers. I mean, they would do it like all the Jefferson Parish rescues, and there are a lot of really good ones in Jefferson Parish, would also, I think, try to get the word out. But I've learned that social media, like, we all rely on it more than not more than we should, but we rely on it as being the only vehicle to get the word out. And we forget some of the ways that we used to do it before there was social media. So I do think that there's a lot of people who don't have the internet or who don't have a Facebook page. So they're not seeing that message. If you think about it, The private practices, if somebody comes to them and asks to get their animal fixed and they say it's going to be $400, they're likely, sadly, the private practice is not likely to say, however, we can get it for you with this voucher where they're going to make a lot less money. That's also a challenge because they're probably not promoting it, but they are redeeming vouchers, which right there is really important. Like they're doing something good, but they're not necessarily promoting it.
Back to your clinics, though. When you do your clinics,
Yeah.
how long does it take to do 100 cats?
Around 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours, depending on if we get a good groove going with our surgery team. We usually start at about 8 o'clock in the morning. We're usually done around 1, 2 o'clock at the latest. So that's how long it takes. Dogs take longer. But my surgeons love, love, love cat days because cats are way easier to spay than a dog.
Yeah, and I know a cat neuter is just a matter of minutes. It's like
Oh,
really
well,
fast.
yeah, it's 30 seconds. And for vets who are surgeons who are high volume trained, like most of our high volume surgeons will do a spay like in 6 minutes. It's really remarkable to watch.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I've actually seen my vet do a neuter, so I know it. I know they're like
Mhm.
really fast. She was done in just not even 5 minutes.
Yeah. Not enough time for you to pass out from looking at the insides of the cat, which happened to me once when I was watching a necropsy, which was really mortifying.
No, I watched her do a spay too. I was actually fascinated by it. I thought it was pretty cool, but
You can come and watch our surgeons do stays anytime you want.
when you staff your clinics, do you use
Mhm.
volunteers as well, or is it all just regular staff?
We do. We use volunteers. We love to have volunteers, and we never feel like we can quite have enough. Obviously, the technical part of it has to be done by people who are experienced and fast, but we have a lot of people. We try to get volunteers to help with check in and check out, which is so important. And then we teach volunteers how to clean the surgical instruments and wrap them up to put them in the autoclave for sterilization. If we have a lot of ferals, we are always excited if we have a volunteer who will help us with cleaning the traps while the cat is in the on the surgery table. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities for volunteers, and usually we have plenty, but sometimes we don't have quite enough, and it makes us sad. It makes our teams have to work a little bit harder. I always want volunteers if anyone's listening who might be interested in that. And the volunteers are recruited through Spaymart.
And that would be for local. How many states do you do this
Mhm.
in?
Right now, we are in, let me see if I can do this real quick. New York, Florida, like hugely in Florida. That's our biggest market. Louisiana, Mississippi, New Mexico, Texas. We're working on Chicago and Massachusetts, Georgia, South Carolina. And I think that's it right now. But we're looking for world dominance. It's kidding. Any state that calls us and has an interest and has a little bit of funding to make it happen, we will mobilize and make it work. Some states are a little harder. Like, for example, in New York, if you're a vet tech, you have to be a licensed vet tech in New York and you have to have your license from New York State. So it limits our pool of technicians that we have to work with. Whereas in Louisiana, you don't have to be licensed. So in the event we're doing a pop-up clinic and we have two surgeons and we need 7 technicians, if I only have 5 local technicians who are available that weekend, then I can fly technicians in from Florida and I'm not worried about the licensing piece of it. Whereas in New York, it's, oh, I can't fly somebody in from Florida because they're not licensed. The weird thing, every state has different rules. And so it makes it complicated. But we love the states that don't have the licensing requirements for vet techs.
When you do have a pop-up clinic, where are your staff coming from? Do they like live in the cities and the states that you're using, or do you
Mhm.
fly them in?
It depends on where we are. So, like with Louisiana and Florida, for example, I have enough technicians locally that there's no point in flying them in.
You said that you also do like consulting with the shelters.
Yes.
When you do consulting with the shelters, I'm just curious. You mentioned there's this new law in New York. So can I ask about that?
Yeah, it's a really crazy law, and we're all really curious to see how it's going to play out. So it's called the New York State Companion Animal. Wait, let me think if I can remember this. New York State Companion Animals Standard of Care Act, which is really long. And as of December 1st, all shelters have to comply with this law, which is very extensive. And so it's certain, for example, there are legal dimensions of cages to hold animals in that are acceptable. And hey, if you have cages that are smaller than that, it's not in compliance. And so it's basically against the law to house an animal that way. The law also requires that you have written protocols for every aspect of your operations and especially your medical protocols. If you have a veterinary staff, the law requires that you have training manuals that are approved by the state. Is really crazy. Like training manuals that so you have a whole training component of your shelter and it's not just hey, we just have them shadow us. There has to be materials for training. So there's a lot of things that a lot of rescues are very nervous because they're like, we're just a little rescue. Like I did a consult with an organization not too long ago, and they're in a storefront and they adopt kittens out, really mostly only kittens. And they're a free roaming, and for lack of a better term, it's almost like an adoption center, but the animals live there. So they're considered a shelter. And I've really struggled with this one because they don't have the appropriate living space according to the law. Okay. And all the animals are free roaming. And if you have free roaming cats, the law says, and this is not, see, the law says you can only have 12 cats in a room. And it doesn't matter how big the room is. So if the room is ginormous, only 12 animals. And that to me is very arbitrary, but it's what they came up with in this law. So they usually have 30 little kittens running around this space. To me, it's not an ideal way to do it, but it works for them. They don't have a lot of illness. They take precautions to make sure that they're weighing the kittens regularly to make sure that everybody's eating. And when I say kittens, not teeny tinies, but 4 month old, 3 month old. And they're doing good work. They're getting animals into homes. And for me, it's very hard for me to tell them, you guys, the way you're set up, you might not be able to continue to operate. That's a very hard thing. But the way the law is set up is that the Department of Agriculture will come in and they will inspect. And as they inspect, they can issue fines or they can shut a shelter down. So on one hand, it's a great law because it'll keep us from having rescues who are spinning out of control, if that makes sense. Like rescues who have too many cats and the animals are not humanely being cared for. But one of the big fears as we roll into this law is that a lot of rescues are going to be forced to shut down, which is not going to be helpful. It's a very interesting time in New York. But if the Department of Agriculture ends up shutting rescues down, I do think that we'll go back in and try to amend the legislation. But it's going to be really interesting. The other kind of consulting that we do is we go into shelters and help them rewrite their SOPs and maybe assist them in coming up with programs that are working around the country, but that specific shelter doesn't really know about the program. There are like kitten diversion programs for shelters that not everybody uses, and there's a managed admission is something that not everybody does. It's helpful for them to learn. And I love to think that everybody wants to hire me, but it's not me. It's really, I have a lot of people that I know. Like I have a very wide network of experts in the field, and I'm very lucky to have that. So I just basically look at a shelter, say, what are you looking for? Like even one shelter, they're hiring all new staff because they're about to open their new building. And they're like, can you help us hire? So it just depends on what the need is. And then I'll find the expert and put them together. So that's really what we do. I wish I had more time personally do consults, but because I love it, it's fun to help people be better. But it's a lot. And we have a very tiny team in terms of admin. There's a lot to do.
So, looking ahead, what is the biggest goal you hope to achieve in the next 5 years to further your cause of animal welfare?
I would say looking ahead in the next 5 years, ultimately, I would like to be in all 50 states spaying and neutering animals. To me, the consulting stuff is fun. It's a nice little offshoot. But honestly, people staying and neutering, if we're not doing that, we're spinning our wheels. And so ultimately, I'd like to be able to do that. Oh, and the other thing, and I don't know if I can do this in 5 years, maybe 6. No, just kidding. Maybe I'm just teasing. One of my major goals is to start, and I'm actually partnering with some really cool organizations on this, but starting to figure out how we can train more veterinarians to do high volume spay neuter. Because a lot of times I have veterinarians who come to me and say, "Hey, I'd really like to participate in your pop-up clinics," and I have to tell them, "No, because you're not fast enough." I don't say it quite that way, but it's if they don't have the speed, then we can't provide the numbers that we're contracted to do. So if we can train more people, and then you think about it, like the private practitioners who do a 45-minute spay, if we can teach them to do even a 10-minute spay, then they can probably do more, right? Like more in a day, because time is money. If it takes them 45 minutes to do it, that's their time for 45 minutes. But if you teach them to do it quicker, then they could do 4 surgeries in that time or 5, and they're not going to lose money. Does it make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So we want to do that. We want to teach a lot of like students coming out of school. What's really terrifying is when students graduate from vet school, most of them have only 1 or 2 stays or neuters under their belt. And then they go into private practice and they're like, oh my gosh, can I do it? It's scary. It's scary to them. So we'd love to be able to put together some coaching scenarios for students so they can get more experience actually doing the surgeries with coaches who will make sure that they're gaining confidence. And then we have more, if they can be confident and feel good about what they're doing, we're going to have more surgeons and more people graduating from vet school who want to be spay neuter surgeons. Our biggest dilemma is that it's hard for them to have the confidence to do it or to build their speed. So if we can provide opportunities for students to do that, then that's a win for the universe. So
Definitely.
yeah, so I think training is a big piece of what I'd like to do and make just trying to provide more spay neuter around the country.
Before we end the call, I would like to know how many spays and neuters with all of your pop up clinics do you estimate that you have done in a year?
That's so hard because I just haven't counted and I should. I would say probably, this is such a ballpark. I'd say probably 30,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to
But
think about
and
that and then just to imagine what the number could have been.
I know, I swear, even if you do 100, it's like the numbers are astronomical when you think about what you're preventing. But yeah, we do a lot of surgeries in a lot of places. So I'm going to say 30,000 is probably my best guess.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I enjoyed speaking with you.
I enjoyed speaking with you and thank you for having me.
That's all the time that we have for today's episode. Thank you for listening. If you are enjoying our show, please consider leaving us a donation. 100% goes to our animals.
Bars in the night, claws in the fight, whiskers twitch and tails take flight. They're calling in stories to spin from the wild. The rescuers grit, the foster homes where love won't quit. From a pup in the rain to a bird in pain, every soul's worth the strain. Animal posse, hear the call. We stand together, big and small. Rescue tales, we've got it all. Animal posse, saving them all. Every caller tells a tale, every howl a whispered wail. We rise up, we never fail. This is the bond, the holy grail. Animal posse, hear the call. We stand together, big and small. Rescue tales, we've got it all. Animal posse, saving them all. Every caller tells a tale, every howl a whispered wail. We rise up, we never fail. This is the bond, the holy grail.